So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the International Virtual Conference, Day 2 of SCP JAIN College, Sri Chandra Prabhu JAIN College, Chennai. Today is Day 2 of the International Virtual Seminar, which we are hosting along with the Audacious Dreams Foundation. And yesterday we had a psychologist and a public speaker from Sri Lanka who had joined Ms. Rasini Bandara. So she had given a beautiful talks. And today we have Mr. Ashish Beergi, who's a co-founder of the MASH project and also is a scholar at National University of Singapore. I'll give the brief introduction about him later. And so without further delay, I would like to request Dr. Sujata, the Vice Principal and Head of Commerce of Sri Chandra Prabhu JAIN College, to give welcome address.
Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So we are in the Day 2 of the International Conference of 2020 on Global Understanding for Sustainable Development, which was organized by Sri Chandra Prabhu JAIN College, BCom Corporate Secretaryship Department and IQAC and the Audacious Foundation, Dreams Foundation. So I warmly welcome each and everyone. Today we have the vibrant and young speaker resource person, Mr. Ashish Beergi is with us. So he is going to address you on the topic of Be the Change and the Change Maker. We are very much honored to have you here, sir. We welcome you on behalf of our college. Thank you for your presence, sir. I welcome warmly our Secretary Lalit Kumar Ojain, as well as our Principal Dr. V. Nagajodi, as well as Dr. Mr. Dinesh Gajendran, the Catalyst, as well as the Executive Director, Audacious Dreams Foundation, Singapore, and the active participants of across India and within India. So you are truly, really a good audience. Yesterday you had given a wonderful participation. Thank you very much for that. Be good and do good. Thank you, one and all. I once again warmly welcome you, all of you, for this international conference. Thank you. I'll hand over the session to the principal, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sujata ma'am, for your warm introduction. Now I request Dr. Nagajodi, the principal of Sri Chandra Prabhu JAIN College, SCP JAIN College, Chennai, for the felicitation address.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. So, good evening to one and all. It's a wonderful opportunity that we are having Day 2 of this international seminar, where we are going to concentrate more about e-learning. The speaker is very particular about the e-learning. And the youngsters, those who are joining with us in YouTube, and as well as the academicians, those who are going to join with us in YouTube, and you people are going to have a very nice session today. And yesterday we had a fantastic session. One psychologist from Sri Lanka, she gave a very good insights. And today we are going to talk more about what you mean by e-learning and what are the advantages of e-learning. And the speaker from National Institute of NIU from Singapore is going to explain to us. And we are waiting, sir, for your valuable presentation. And with these few words, I'll hand over this session back to Mr. Dinesh Gajendran. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Nagajodi and Dr. Sujata from Sri Chandra Prabhu JAIN College, for your glad support and initiating this international virtual conference. And now I'm just happy to introduce Mr. Ashish Beergi, who is my close friend for the last few years and last decade. And Ashish Beergi is a youth activist and a social entrepreneur. He's a co-founder and a CEO of MASH Project Foundation, a social enterprise building a global ecosystem for social entrepreneurs. And he's currently a scholar at a prestigious Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, and pursuing his master's in public policy. So MASH project has its presence in India and Singapore to build a community for social entrepreneurs through events, workshop, and platforms, mentor-mentee programs, and through various partnerships with stakeholders. And Ashish has a great backing of his profile by being a British Council Global Changemakers London, an official Indian delegate to BRICS Youth Summit and UNESCO Youth Forum Paris, an International Youth Forum Russia, and he was invited to speak at the International Conference on Climate Change organized by the World Youth Foundation in Malaysia. And he's also recognized as a change maker by Ashoka Foundation, so one of the prestigious foundation, and also participated in Asia Changemakers Exchange Summit held at Singapore in May 2017, a network summit in Indonesia And he was invited at the Unleashed conference held in Singapore on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and recently conferred as a goalkeeper by the prestigious Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, New York. So during his college, he he conceptualized and built a waste management project, which went on to become one of his finest models of decentralized urban waste management in India, and got extensively covered in the media and research study for various stakeholders. And he's also recognized as Microsoft India featured silver anniversary campaign called Everyday 25, which highlighted the journeys of 25 exceptional leaders. Ashish also had different hats with him, like a member of World Economic Forum Global Chapers New Delhi Hub, and he's also the SLP and Change Rooms Fellow. He also organized various youth talks, being a TEDx speaker, and he also started a lot of startup weekend program, Ashoka University Centers for Entrepreneurship. And he is also mentioned for his entrepreneurship work by various corporates, including Jubilant Foodworks Limited, Walmart, Facebook, Business World, and in over 100 academic institutions, including IITs, so B schools and many universities across India and across the world by participating in many youth events. And I'm sure having Ashish, who's kind of a very good social entrepreneur, which I know in my history of being working with young people. And I request Ashish Beergi to take over the session to give us inputs on Changemaker and being a change-making opportunities. It'll be both helpful for academicians and also for the students. He's a real example of being a youth activist and a youth icon. So the academicians also can have how you can able to work with your young people. His thoughts will be helpful for in the next 1 hour. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining, Ashish. It's a session is over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dinesh, for that wonderful introduction. I think there was a lot of information I realized, and thanks for having me. It's indeed an honor to be invited by these institutions, and I thank the Vice Principal and Principal Sir, Vice Principal Ma'am for having us. So I'll, I was thinking, since it's virtual and all of our lives have become so, less of in-person contact. So how do we make it the most of such kind of events because it's not in person anymore? So if you have any questions, comments, please put them in, and I'll request Dinesh to, from time to time bring it up and make it as interactive as possible. I've been on the other side of the conversation when speakers, are talking about a lot of things which they think, but it should be relevant. So I'll keep it short, about another 20 odd minutes to 30 minutes about what I want to share, and maybe another 20, 30 minutes, if you can have, if you would like to ask anything to me. So I'll start off, I think a lot Dinesh has already talked about what I've done, and but I'll talk about more in terms of my organization and the work. But before that, since I believe a lot of the audience are young students, so I would like to focus on what as a student I was doing and what helped me, in my this whole change making journey, and what does Changemaker actually means, and what how I relate with this whole idea of being the change that I wish to see in the world, right? So I started volunteering with a lot of youth organizations, and kind of got associated with different social causes quite early. I was in school, as far I remember, in 9th or 10th grade, when over the weekends and in the summer break, I started working with some youth organizations. I was always fascinated about whole idea of volunteering, but there was very limited opportunities. And this is, I think, like about 10, 12 years ago. So things have a lot changed, and changed for good over the years. But I've been born and brought up in Delhi. And I felt like with volunteering, there were a couple of things, but it wasn't like mainstream that, you expect young people to go out there and start volunteering. So interestingly, one of my cousins were visiting from abroad, and she mentioned about how they would go on these scout trips and the camps. And that really fascinated me, the whole idea of going together with a group of like-minded people and being able to, do something interesting for society, right? So I felt like, why don't we have it in India? And then I started researching, and then found something where a particular article talked about such kind of youth volunteering opportunities. And I called up their office one day, and then there was a lady who said, yes, we are organizing these volunteering camps for young people. And if you'd like to come along, why don't you see us at our office next week? So, and I'm still like, this is Delhi a couple of years back, the public transport again, the place was pretty far, and I lived on the other side of the city. I shared this idea with my parents, but they kind of, they were okay with the idea, but they said, we right now pretty busy. So if you want to go, just, figure it out yourself. So I think those kind of things early in life were very helpful for me to be able to take decisions for myself and build a sense of independence. I think that till date is kind of very important for me. So, those are the kind of, I think, things that have helped me to, shape up a lot of things early in my life. So yeah, coming back to my story. So then I went to their office, and I was extremely fascinated about the work they were doing. And, there were a lot of kind of like, pin-up boards they have put up about their work and the kind of previous camps they have taken up. So I was quite excited, and I immediately signed up and I said, I would love to volunteer. And that's how my journey started. Why I'm talking about this is because it's important to know, in fact, any age in life, it's not when you were a school student or a college student, or probably at whatever stage in life you are, that you need to find things that excite you and interest you. And while I started going and volunteering often, I realized that I am enjoying it so much. I'm meeting the like kind of people who I enjoy, talking, having conversation, exchanging ideas, and spending time with. While I had some amazing good friends, and I'm still very good friends with my school friends, but like I said, you maybe, your family friends are loving and caring, but they sometimes are misguided about what you want, what's your real calling is, right? So spending time with people who are equally passionate and driven like you makes you learn so much. And to a very important point, which I'll come to later, is the whole aspect and importance of being part of communities, right? And what does these communities, role they play? So I'll come to that point, but I'll quickly share the stories, and then I'll come to the lessons I've had, and then open to more questions from all of you. So going ahead, I think a couple of years, I was in 12th grade, final year of my school. I had by then already been part of a couple of organizations, and I built my interest in climate change and into more of like environmental based activism. So through that, I was introduced to a program which was British Council organizing globally, called Global Changemakers, where they bring about 60 young people who are under the age of 19, 18, 19, that group, and doing something for society. They are either volunteering, or either they are running their own initiatives, or something which they are doing for social activism. So I applied for that program, and I think our first year couldn't make it through. I was quite disheartened, but also then gave me a good reflection to what can I improve. So the good part of I think our generation was Facebook was just introduced. This was 2000, I think 7, 8, around that time. India, Facebook was just coming up in India and all of that. So I started becoming friends with people who the friends with people who went to to these kind of programs, right? And the good part of social media is give you suggestions to be friends with people who have similar interest. I think Dinesh and I also know each other through such communities, and we're part of such programs, and we have a lot of friends who are doing some great work across the world, right? So making friends with those like-minded people are extremely important. But yeah, coming to the story. So then I started interacting, and then I also happened to learn from them, that what kind of application what are the kind of experiences they highlighted, and how to write or make an application like this for a program, international program like this. This was my first ever international program, and next year I applied and fortunately made it through. Why I'm talking about this program is that sometimes, be it conferences or be it some other like any kind of learning program, education, institutions that you're applying. Sometimes we don't make it and we get disheartened. But what we don't realize is that people who made it through, they must have done something about it. Sometimes it's experience, sometimes it's qualification, sometimes it's merit. So kind of it's important to know that for you to get to a certain place, like for you to get to a certain milestone, you need to learn from these people who already walked that path and what worked from them, right? And start early. Start early, I mean, like if you, let's say, want to crack a particular kind of an entrance exam, if you want to make it through a particular global program, like a lot of programs, I think Dinesh just mentioned that I'm part of global communities. A lot of people do reach out to me and ask me, how did you get through those, right? So it's the same thing, it's pretty possible. Like, if I can do, anybody can do it. It's just that then you have to have that sort of a plan in place, right? Sometime it may take few months, sometime it may take few years, but then you have to plan it, I would like to mention a beautiful quote by this guy, is one of my favorite leadership coach. His name is Tony Robbins, one of the most celebrated leadership gurus, they called it, and I highly recommend that you should check out his books and videos, Tony Robbins. So I attended his event last year in Singapore, and they were like, it was amazing, it was about 10,000 people there, and he said something that really struck me, right? So he said that we humans really overestimate a lot what we can achieve in 1 year, and really underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. So that truly shows that we sometimes look at only short-sighted goals and trying to fit in and cram too much. And when we start, kind of like missing our goals, we kind of become small. We kind of become disheartened, right? But what we fail to realize is that what if you span those goals over a long period of time and break it into smaller milestones, and then keep taking baby steps and keep moving towards the larger goal, right? Why I'm sharing all of this is because some of these things have, over the years, when I reflect back through my experience, I've learned, made mistakes, but I also realized that it's just the way of looking at things. It's just about changing your approach, and so much can be altered because of that, right? Some of these experiences and lessons have been very, very insightful and helpful. Coming back to my story, so I think so when I went to this 1 week long conference in London, it was one of the most I would say transformative experience for me. I met these 60 amazing, exceptionally brilliant young people from all over the world. Some of them who are doing exceptional work, like people like Greta and Malala kinds, so those kinds, you may have not heard their names, but they're doing incredible work in their communities. And over the years, now we've been friends for so many years, they continue to do some amazing work in their countries, with their communities, with their governments, with their multiple stakeholders, right? So what really happened in that 1 week, one was, of course, the learning was great. I think they put a brilliant program and they brought some amazing trainers and facilitators. Second thing that happened was I became a part of this global community now, right? So now I'm going to talk a little bit about communities and why they are important, right? So when I went there, it was great to learn and, learn from the trainers as well as from these peers. But what was also important was that these communities were extremely inspiring. I kind of met people who had started their own initiatives much earlier in life. They were 13, 14 or even younger. And we see the whole rise of these whole young change makers, like, moments like, Friday Futures, like, these climate strikes, a great example of what young people have potential of, right? And so I was extremely inspired, right? Like that people who are doing such great work. So till then, doing all the volunteering and, this, the kind of activities so I was involved was more like a hobby. I was doing it because I was enjoying and learning and kind of feel very satisfied with the kind of stuff I was doing. But after that, I started thinking about and having a very different lens, which means that I was thinking it, how can I make it my profession? How can I do it long term? How it's not a weekend hobby anymore or something what I would do on a summer break, but this is a part of my daily life. And this is something that I would like to talk about next, is that how can each of us become a change maker every day in our lives? We don't need to give up on our day jobs to do something good for the society. Change making can happen as part of your daily job. So this is something I would love to speak about, as the topic also says, being the change and becoming a change maker. And there you don't need to give up on things or become a whole some community or social worker. We all of us have the potential to become and bring the change in our daily lives, right, in our communities, right? So we'll come and talk about a little bit about that. So I'll take a note of that. But yeah, coming back to the story. So I came back, and then just gave my 12th board, started with my undergrad college. I studied in Delhi for my undergrad, did business studies in my undergrad. So I started a project on anti-littering, zero littering, and how campuses can be made litter-free. And this project went on for some time. And I also, started doing this as, spending a lot of time doing that. Then very interestingly, one of my friends' dad reached out to me. So he said, so my friend must have told him about what I'm doing. So he said, we are starting, and he happens to be from the plastic industries. So they are like a manufacturer of plastic bag. And that time in Delhi, there was a whole, ban on plastic bag, that kind of campaign going on, and it was in news. It was in there was a court case they were fighting. So they wanted to do like a CSR campaign, like a social campaign, to show that it's not the bag, plastic bag, which is the real problem. It's the disposal of the plastic bag. If you treat it scientifically and if you dispose it correctly, so there is nothing wrong about the plastic bag, right? It's like saying that if you don't burn it, if you don't put it into sewage rivers, or if you don't feed the cattle with the food inside it, so there's nothing bad if you dispose it and do it properly, right? So I kind of like that idea, and it also gave me an interesting opportunity to able to scale my initiative. So they had a fund for a CSR fund for this activity for about to run this campaign for about 1 year. And I started building a whole project around this. So I will still go to my college, attend my classes in the morning, and after lunch or in the evening, I would go and work on this project. In a couple of months, we were able to set up a very interesting model around cleaning up Delhi, and we set up this project in very central Delhi, which was Connaught Place. It's a I believe most of you must have heard about it. It's a circular, big market, a very landmark location in Delhi. So we partnered with multiple stakeholders. And another thing I will talk about later half is about partnerships. So these were my first few experience of about multi-stakeholder collaborations. So I got, we started working on working with the local market associations, because they're important stakeholders, right? Then we worked with a local NGO who brought rat pickers into this whole picture, because they are, first of all, completely, bottom of the pyramid in our society, kind of, I think, exploited the most, and they are living in a very extreme poor conditions, and it's unorganized sector. So we wanted to engage with them from the beginning. And then, of course, municipal corporation, which is the government and policy making body in this case. So you can't do something like this without having them. So got them all on board. We designed a campaign and got these practitioners into a proper channel, a system of waste management, got them uniform training, and ran a campaign on, do not, litter. First of all, do not litter and bin your waste plastic. So making sure that all the plastics were collected and sent for proper recycling. So we ran this for about a year, got picked up in all major media channels. The local MLA heavily spoke about it, market association, and these are some of the biggest shop owners in CP, which are like some of the big brand owners, right? They really liked it, and they said, we would like to scale it up. But plastic industry had challenges because they were also fighting that case, and there were so many things going on. They had funds issues. So, that was my first ever experience of realizing that, you want to make sustainable solutions. You don't want to do something good, which doesn't last too long, right? So how can we, design a model which self-sustains? So there is some revenue making or fund generation aspect involved. So it's not, I would say, dependent solely on grants or donation, right? So going ahead, I started researching a lot about waste management. I started meeting a lot of people, experts, going to conferences and events on what are the big challenges India is facing and Delhi in particular is facing, and what kind of different innovative models will work in that case, right? So did that research and spoke to a lot of people, tried and tested some of the ideas, and then finally came up with this idea of creating decentralized model of waste management. What is a decentralized model of waste management is, so if I don't know how the situation is in Chennai right now, but I believe like any other big city in India, we have big landfills. These are these whole big I would say mountains of trash which it gets collected from the whole city, right? So Delhi has 3 big ones, and they're apparently making another one. So all your waste, from your household get collected in that landfill, right? So a lot of people in Western countries and European countries, they basically segregate the waste. So it directly goes for recycling, but in India, we don't have a practice of segregation of waste. So the waste gets mixed. Some valuables are taken out by these rack pickers, and the rest of the, I think 80% and above, which is literally, your wet waste or the waste you can't do anything about, goes to your landfills, right? So the problem is that because that waste goes to the landfills, now it's difficult to extract anything valuable out of it. Like it's very difficult to get energy out of that because you haven't segregated the waste, right? So now the challenge is that there is a capacity on how much of waste you can continue to put there. There's a limited land, and of course it's extremely harmful, right, for the environment. So so the idea that I worked on was to reverse that model. So instead of sending it for recycling, how about, and also, you can't make anything energy. So a lot of organizations spend a lot of money to, copy paste the idea. What worked in the Western countries is to put a waste to energy plant at the landfill site. And hundreds and thousands of crores of rupees have been spent there to kind of take energy out of it. But it's not possible largely because of 2 reasons, because the weight gets mixed and it's of no good use to get energy out of it, right? So idea was to work on a circular economy model where we would take up a complex, a colony of, let's say, 1,000 or 2,000 households, and take a small patch of land, very small, about, let's say, 2,000 square feet of land, and we would put your a recycling facility there, smaller units, right? So we started working on this idea, and it became quite a hit. In fact, when Swachh Bharat mission was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister, this was one of the most featured project then. So we set it up in central Delhi, in Chanakyapuri, and I would like you to show a video very quickly. I hope it works and plays, so you get an idea of what kind of project. And this was covered by NDTV News channel. Dinesh, just let me know if you can see my screen and if the audio is also working, okay?
Yeah, the screen is visible.
Okay. I'll play it and you tell me if the audio is visible.
Yeah.
Yes,
yes, good.
You can hear, right?
Yeah, yes.
I think this is in Hindi. I'm not sure how many of you are comfortable, but at least you'll get to see what we were doing, and I can talk about it later, okay?
की शान ये जीरो वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का यहाँ पर ये आप कह रहे हैं ये कौन सा वेस्ट है? ये ग्रीन वेस्ट है, लेकिन हाउस होल्ड वेस्ट जो है उसको हम समझेंगे।
ग्रीन है, यहाँ बहुत ग्रीन निकल।
The audio is not coming.
सफाई का अभियान चल रहा हो, मैंने इतने साफ सुथरे तरीके से काम होते हुए नहीं देखा है। ये दिल्ली के बीचों बीच एक कॉलोनी में मौजूद है। ये क्या है? ये
फ्यूल केक है।
अच्छा,
ये फ्यूल यही जो है इसको कंप्रेस करके ये फ्यूल केक बना देना। ये जाएगा।
दिस इज रिप्लेसमेंट फॉर वुड।
यस,
अच्छा,
इसका जो है फर्नेस है, बॉयलर है, या फिर होटल रेस्टोरेंट के जो कुकिंग जो है जहाँ भट्टियां बनाते हैं, इसका कैलोरिफिक वैल्यू इज ऑलमोस्ट एज गुड एज कोल, एग्जैक्टली एज गुड एज कोल।
तो ये आप लोग ये बनाते हैं, इतना बड़ा कहीं सप्लाई होता है?
ये तो होटल वाले ले जाते हैं।
होटल ले जाते, वेरी गुड, दे आर यूजिंग इट, बहुत अच्छी बात है। हम देख सकते हैं किस तरह से ये निकल रहा है गरम। ये ग्रीन वेस्ट है जो निकल रहा है यहाँ पर इस तरह से। बहुत अच्छे सर, बहुत अच्छे। सिर्फ 50 लाख लागत।
लैंड रिक्वायरमेंट देखिए आप, इन 2000 स्क्वायर फीट, यू डोंट रिक्वायर एकर्स ऑफ लैंड। और शाम को पूरा देखिए कितना साफ रखते हैं,
बिल्कुल
रोज का रोज। आप कभी भी आके देख लेंगे।
तो अब देख सकते हैं ये कूड़ा घरों से अलग अलग करके कैसे लाया गया है। ये घरों का कूड़ा है। अब ये हम सब सिटीजन्स की, हम नागरिकों की जिम्मेदारी है कि किस तरह से अपना हरा कचरा अलग रखें और जो अपना और कूड़ा होता है अलग रखें। तो ये वैसा कूड़ा है, यहाँ पर मशीन में डाला जाता है। सुधीर जी,
मशीन में डालेंगे तो ये मशीन में एंजाइम पड़ता है बस, और कोई ट्रीटमेंट नहीं। एंजाइम एक पड़ेगा और उस एंजाइम से मिक्स करके फिर यहाँ पर डिकम्पोजिशन के लिए लगाएंगे। 15 दिन का है ये। तो 15 दिन का साइकिल है।
ठीक। तो ये ग्रीन वेस्ट हमने देखा। ग्रीन वेस्ट
अभी हाउस होल्ड वेस्ट वहाँ सेग्रीगेट होकर यहाँ आया है।
तो ये अब घर का जो कचरा है वो समझेंगे स्टोरी ऑफ जीरो वेस्ट। यू आर इन न्यू मोतीबाग दिल्ली फर्स्ट जीरो वेस्ट एरिया। बहुत ही बेहतरीन, बहुत ही सुंदर ये सोसाइटी है और बिल्कुल आंखें खुल गई हैं यहाँ पर आकर कि वाकई हमारे देश में हो सकता है जिन चीजों के हमने सपने देखे हैं कि किस तरह से एक कॉलोनी में रहकर ही अपने आप सफाई आप किस तरह से कर सकते हैं। सुधीर जी, तो आप ये बताइए, ये घरों का कचरा हमारे पास है।
ये घरों का कचरा जो है वो कहीं इकट्ठा नहीं होता है, हैंड कार्ट में लाके सीधे यहीं पर डालते हैं। सीधे यहीं। तो म्यूनिसिपैलिटी की ट्रक का आना जाना बंद। बड़े
अच्छा, जैसे बॉटल्स होती हैं, प्लास्टिक के थैलियां होती हैं, दूध की थैलियां, वो सब मैं यहाँ नहीं देखती हूँ।
अब आ जाती हैं तो उसको सेग्रीगेट करके बाहर निकालते हैं।
तो वैसे क्या लोग यहाँ पे अलग अलग कूड़ा देते हैं?
थोड़ा बहुत करते हैं, थोड़ा नहीं करते।
कैसे बताइए?
कुछ लोग जैसे मान लीजिए प्लास्टिक के बैग में फल सब्जी या कचरा डाला तो वो सेग्रीगेट करना।
क्योंकि मुझे ज्यादातर ये किचन का कूड़ा दिखा है।
ज्यादातर किचन का।
तो अगर ग्लासेस आ गए, प्लास्टिक आ गए, बॉटल्स आ गई,
तो प्लास्टिक का प्लांट हम दिखाएंगे आपको थोड़ा सा। तो प्लास्टिक को रिसाइकिल कर रहे हैं।
प्लास्टिक को भी रिसाइकिल कर लेते हैं,
यहीं पर कर रहे हैं।
अच्छा, यहाँ पे ये कूड़ा फिर ये उसी तरह जाएगा ग्रीन वेस्ट,
यहाँ से वहाँ जाएगा और जिसमें कि वो खाद बन जाएगा।
ठीक है,
ये खाद बन जाएगा और यहाँ पर रोज साफ हो गए, शाम को पानी से धुलाई कर देते हैं। दिन भर काम करके तो कोई म्यूनिसिपैलिटी के ट्रक का ना आना ना जाना।
ठीक है, यहाँ
पर और कोई ढलाव नहीं है। ढलाव फ्री कॉलोनी, डस्टबिन फ्री कॉलोनी, ना कोई डस्टबिन ना कोई ढलाव। हैंड कार्ट से। अच्छा, घर में भी बाहर नो डस्टबिन अलाउड नहीं है। अपने घर का कूड़ा घर में रखिए। और जो
देख सकते हैं जैसे प्लास्टिक की थैली वैली आई है, यहाँ पे ये लोग
इसको अलग करके देखेंगे, आपको बगल में दिखाऊंगा मैं। वहाँ प्लास्टिक को रिसाइकिल कर देते हैं।
तो प्लास्टिक को आप फ्यूल बना रहे हैं?
जी, प्लास्टिक से फर्नेस ऑयल बन जाता है। ये प्लांट लगा हुआ है। क्योंकि हमारा प्लास्टिक का इतना कम प्रोडक्शन है, लोकल रेजिडेंशियल कॉलोनी है, तो ये प्लांट 3 दिन में एक बार चलाते हैं। और जब चलाएंगे देखिए वो रखा हुआ है। आप इसमें एनारोबिक प्रोसेस है। यानी कि एनारोबिक का मतलब है कि देयर इज नो ऑक्सीजन यूज, ओनली बाय।
तो ये प्लास्टिक, जो घर का प्लास्टिक निकलता है, देख सकते हैं जो घर का प्लास्टिक निकलता है उससे ये फ्यूल है। और ये किस काम में आएगा?
ये जाता है सारे फैक्ट्रीज में, जनरेटर सेट चलाते हैं उससे।
अच्छा, जनरेटर सेट
चलाते हैं इससे। और फैक्ट्रीज के जो चलाते हैं अपने मशीनरी वगैरह, पंप वगैरह चलाएंगे इससे। और इसमें जो मेजरली ये निकलता है, थोड़ा इसमें वो भी निकलता है गैस, मीथेन गैस, जो भी खाना बनाने के लिए यूज करते हैं। यहाँ पर जो वर्कर्स हैं वो अपना खाना यही बनाते हैं।
अरे वाह! तो ये देख सकते हैं, ये जो पाइप है, पवन हमारे कैमरा पर्सन दिखाएंगे कि यहाँ से जो मीथेन गैस निकलता है वो इस पाइप के जरिए यहाँ पर चल सकता है कि कोई खाना वाना बना सकते हैं शायद, लेकिन जरूर लग नहीं रहा कि ज्यादा यूज होता। अभी नहीं है, लेकिन एक तरह से
एक बार बनता है क्योंकि इतने कम प्लास्टिक हमारी कॉलोनी में निकलता है कि ये तो मतलब इतना अच्छा प्लांट है कि जब चलेगा तो हमारी कॉलोनी का प्लास्टिक कहीं बाहर नहीं जाता, एक्सेप्ट पीवीसी, एवरीथिंग। जैसे मान लीजिए कि इसमें देखा जाए किस तरह के प्लास्टिक है। इसमें जो बिस्किट के रैपर्स हैं वो भी इसमें है, नमकीन बिस्किट ये सब के रैपर्स भी हैं, प्लास्टिक बॉटल,
तो ये पूरे चारों ट्रंक भर जाएंगे तब जाकर आप चलाएंगे? 4-5
इट टेक्स अबाउट 4 days।
मतलब 4-5 ये पूरे भर जाएंगे
तब उसकी एक दिन का मतलब वायबिलिटी बनेगी चलाने की।
तो सुधीर जी, एक लास्ट कमेंट।
हाँ जी।
बहुत आपने बेहतरीन सुंदर उदाहरण दिया है। किस तरह से हम अपना वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट करें। लेकिन अब जिस तरह से सरकार का सफाई अभियान चल रहा है, आज ही आया कि 19,500 करोड़ का एक पूरा सिवेज ट्रीटमेंट पे लगाया जाएगा, उस पर आपका क्या कमेंट है?
देखिए, मैंने ये बहुत सबने देख रखा है, ये सैकड़ों हजारों करोड़ रुपए के प्लांट जो है उसका कोई मतलब नहीं है जब तक कि अल्टीमेट यूसेज, रिसाइकिल एंड रीयूज हैज टू बी आवर फोकस. Zero landfill has to be our focus. Nothing should be left to decompose by nature. We must decompose it using human mind and reuse it also.
All right. So just one second. I'm just. Yeah. I hope you were all able to watch that video. So this is the project that we set it up in Delhi, and it became a big, success within a short period of time, because worked on a very simple concept of not sending out your waste outside, and making sure that your waste is not waste, but it's actually a useful resource. And we created a simple structure and model of recycling that waste. So through this whole setup, I think I had a lot to learn in that journey of how to work on different ideas. First I identify the real problem. Why we may not think as a change maker, we always trying to see and problems from one lens, but it's important to go on ground and talk to the people who are most affected by that problem, and then come up with ideas and solutions. So I think we tried a lot of ideas, and before we started working on this particular model, because we were not very clear of what the real problem was, right? And then of course, while doing this, I also realized that it's important to also learn how do you work with different entities, different people, how do you create teams. So as a young person, and this is for all my fellow friends who are in college or studying, or they're in early stages of their career, is to learn, focus more on learning, right? And get it from diverse places. There is no one traditional route to get learning, right? You can learn from your peers, you can learn through internships, you can learn through starting your own initiatives. So get out and get as much as like learning, because those are kind of very important foundational building blocks in the whole process. Going ahead, and I want to talk about MASH now, about my current venture, which is social enterprise. So during these, I did this for about 3.5 years. So I started in college, but I went on doing for another year and a half, 2 years after my college as well. But what happened during college was that while I was doing this, so I saw a lot of my friends from college, or my school friends who have gone to different colleges now, and then the whole, I was kind of connected in the, through this whole youth, networks and youth organizations, right? So I would see a lot of my friends also quite interested in social causes and wanting to do good, but they would not pursue it long term. Like they would not, even if they wanted to, like, most of them would take up a 9 to 5 corporate job, which would really, drain them out. And they would always talk about it when we would meet up once in a few months. But so what was the reason, and I felt like, why did I continue doing this, right? So there were a couple of reasons, and I was also, like, Dinesh mentioned, I was organizing hackathons. So I was also involved with the startup community, right? So people who were creating ventures, which were basically not social impact focused, but they were some good startups, and there were some good, ideas, right? So the whole startup space was coming up, and this was the time, like Prime Minister also announced Startup India campaign, and there was whole growth of different things that were happening in the ecosystem. So I thought about why it's not happening for social impact, social change, social entrepreneurship, right? And I was, I also had a chance to be a part of a few other programs. So I was part of UNESCO Youth Forum. During my college, this was held in France, Paris, and then before that, I was also part of another program in Russia. These kind of exposure programs expose me to different ideas and models from all over the world. So I felt like there are so many things happening, especially in Europe and US. So why can't we bring that to India, right? A lot has changed also, I would say, in last 6-7 years, and there is a whole growth of incubators, accelerators, social impact based organizations. We ourselves are connected with so many and work with so many partners who are doing such amazing work. So we felt like, why, at that point, I felt like, we need to create a space for young people to build that ecosystem, right? So I was doing that parallelly while I was focusing on building waste management as well, and did waste management as full time and this more like voluntarily for first 2 years. Gradually, Bash picked up, and we were started working with few partners and stakeholders. So one of our first few corporate partners were Facebook. They did a project with us on building capacities for nonprofits, and this was all work led by young people, right? Then we started organizing a lot of these events where we brought different people on different themes. So like, let's say something on education, something on climate change, and we call these events mash mixers to kind of build communities, right? Get more people to learn. So young people don't have to go different places to find like-minded people and of course stakeholders, right? So we got a lot of leaders to be able to kind of interact and connect with the people. And we did it in multiple cities also. So in fact, Chennai was one of our very active hubs. We have a lot of partners in Chennai. Then we did in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, and Mumbai. So we kind of like start spreading our network, youth network across the country. So MASH now over the years focuses on 3 things as part of community building. One is access to communities. So we kind of bring these different communities together to, build more partnerships. Second aspect is capacity and skills. So we do a lot of workshops, training programs, experiential learning programs where people can learn a lot of skills on different things. And we just yesterday did a program with the United Nations volunteers, UNV India, on what are the future skills required by young people after COVID. So a lot of focus on youth, a lot of focus around skilling and employment and on entrepreneurship. Then third aspect is amplification. What kind of how can young people tell their stories and reach out to masses? So we help them create their stories, also work with some media partners to take out their stories on a larger scale. So over the years, MASH has kind of diversified into multiple channels. We also have a consulting arm which does a lot of CSR work and public policy work with corporates, nonprofits, and governments. We have a lot of work going around in different parts, and recently also started our work in Singapore. And we have a nonprofit arm which works on youth capacity building and more young change makers, working with more young change makers. Because for a country like India, where we have almost, as number says, over 300 million young people, and we will be the most youth focused, like most youthful country with the largest young people's population in next 2-3 years. So how do you channelize this potential that you have? Also, there is a very big, large population and so many needs are to be fulfilled, so many issues are there to be addressed. So as a young person, I think there's a lot of responsibility, yet there's a lot of potential out there, right? And the world is looking at India. Even if you look at all numbers and charts, everybody is looking at India, and especially with the current situation with COVID-19, everybody is talking about India from a different perspective as well. So there's a lot of hopes from our nation, right? While we understand there are a lot of challenges, but it's up to us as young people that either we are suppressed by those challenges, or are we really look at those challenges, opportunities, and turn them around. And this is the kind of work that I'm extremely passionate about, that how do we take challenges as hurdles to something bigger, right? And kind of channelize our our focus and we create something tangible and valuable, right? So yeah, I think I don't want to go too much in detail about what we do. You can, if you're interested on social entrepreneurship or around something to do with social impact, more than happy to take it one-on-one, or you can read more about on our work on our website, which is www.mashglobal.org. We are doing a lot of work around COVID right now. So there is a new initiative called COVID Action we have started. It has a separate website called COVID Action, COVID ACTION, COVID Action as one word, .in, covidaction.in. And idea is to create a one-stop platform where you can find all the resources that are available for young change makers. So if you're doing different initiatives around COVID, so then you can find different resources, both financial and non-financial, at one place. Plus, we are doing a lot of virtual programs like these to, again, build capacities of young people and also bring leaders to talk about issues. So there is one next week we are doing on expert session on mentorship. What is the role of mentorship for young people? And this is attended by 100,000 of audiences. So if you're interested, you can find more details on our social media channels. So if you just look up MASH, MASH project, you will be able to look us up on pretty much on all major social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. So you can find information about our programs. So yeah, so I think I will start summing up now, and happy to take questions, or however Dinesh plans to take this forward. But I think I mentioned about a few things that are important for all of us to start taking baby steps in creating the change that we want to see. Number one, communities are extremely important. So be part of as many as important communities you would be. So I think several communities I'm part of, like, Dinesh also mentioned, when I was in school, so part of this young change makers group through Global Change Makers. Gradually, because of my work, I had a chance to become part of some other bigger communities. So I'm part of World Economic Forum's Your Global Shapers, which is again a group of like-minded people from all different walks of life, under the age of 30, doing extremely, doing some great work. So then they kind of partner with each other and co-create initiatives. And of course, then you're a part of the Global World Economic Forum community. I think Chennai also has a hub. You can look up Global Shapers Chennai Hub and what kind of initiatives they are doing. There are over 500 hubs globally. Similarly, I'm part of Ashoka Changemakers as well, which is again a collective for young change makers, and support a lot of young social entrepreneurs. So yeah, so I suggest that look up to be part of communities, and it doesn't have to be like just to start with a global international communities. Within your cities, there are these small chapters, or within your college. If you, I don't know much about whether your college has one or not, but I highly recommend, if you don't, to start a social impact community, right? Like NSS is there, NCC is there, and all that. But you can together start a Changemaker club where you take up issues, and people who are passionate about those issues to come together and solve problems for your college only. Like, I'm sure, every place has some problems. Even some of the most developed countries have different kind of issues. So how can you look at problems as a way to solve, like an opportunity to overcome them, and not just talk about them and do nothing about it? That doesn't help anybody, right? So, I think change starts small and starts with each one of us, and kind of human beings, finding those kind of groups to be able to build a momentum and then scale it up, right? So yeah, all of us can be a change maker. And the other aspect was partnerships and collaborations. So like I shared in my example of waste management, I think that played a very significant role in able to kind of, help me able to build that up and scale it up, right? And I've realized this in all other experiences that you can't just do everything yourself. You need to kind of join forces with other people, other organizations. So collaboration is the future, right? And UN has defined this 17 sustainable development goals, SDGs, global goals, which are to be achieved by 2030. So we just have another 10 years. And because of COVID now, a lot of these goals have become a lot more important, and there's so much work needs to be done, and a lot more has to be done now. So goal number 17, which is the last goal is talks about the partnerships, importance of partnerships. So this is something that we also focus a lot, is to bring different stakeholders, governments, corporates, academic institutions together to do focus on creating impact, right? So yeah, so I think anything and everything you're doing, don't think about going solo. Think about how you can work with other people who also have interest, and then make a collective and become a bigger force of change, right? So yeah, I think these are a couple of things that I'd like to share. Just wanted to end my my part by saying that there is three things that are very simple, and this is by Robin Sharma, who's again one of my favorite leadership coaches, and he emphasized on these three key learnings that what as human beings, it's important is that we should have bigger goals. We should push for bigger change. So have big goals, number one. Number two, you need to start small. So you don't need to think about taking that big jump immediately. You need to like gradually go there and take small steps. And third, and the most important thing is that you need to act now. Don't delay it for tomorrow or someday in the future, that I'll first do this and then do that, right? But it can be a part of the plan, but whatever you want to do immediate, just get going with that, right? So yeah, think big, start small, act now. Perfect. So that's all from my end. Over to Dinesh now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashish, for your inputs. So it will be very helpful, and also thanks for promoting the social entrepreneurship in India and also across the globe. And we have a couple of questions that how, as a social entrepreneur, and we know there is a money involved, also there is income generation is also involved. And so what is your advice on the students who's in the college, if they want to look for any entrepreneurship opportunities or social entrepreneurship opportunities? How would you define a normal entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship in your own words?
Sorry, Dinesh, I had some signal problem. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I mean, how you can define the word entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, and what is your suggestion on the upcoming students force if they would like to take a social entrepreneurship as their career? Is that possible to do also?
Yeah, sure. So entrepreneurship is simply an idea where you take up, like the dictionary meaning of entrepreneurship is somebody who's enterprising and ready to take a risk in, with the potential of something in return, right? I think as an entrepreneur, the way I look at is, it's a way of being able to do something innovative and disruptive in whatever space you want to do. The moment you add social on that, so social before entrepreneurship, so disruptive, solving problem, but creating a social impact also, right? So, and again, the way I look at it is, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, even they're yet not social, they are creating some impact to the society. They are building, new models. They are able to, solve different problems. But social entrepreneurs in particular look at certain problems which are not addressed by any other mainstream, I would say, enterprises, right? So some of the good examples of social entrepreneurs would be, I think in India, Barefoot College, or, there is, Goonj, which is a great organization working on, started by Anshu Gupta. Recently, there are a lot of new interesting social enterprises that have come up. Nudge Foundation does work on skilling. Bhumi, which is a Chennai-based very large NGO. So all of them are social enterprises. The waste management project I showed is a social enterprise, right? So now the big question also people ask sometimes to me is that can non-profit be a social enterprise? If you don't have a revenue model but you're dependent on grant, why not? You are creating an impact. You are working on innovative and disruptive models. So to me, I definitely see that they are social enterprises. But yeah, some of them choose to go for profit way, right? So we ourselves are, a hybrid organization. We started as a non-profit, and then we felt like we want to be self-dependent. So we started a for-profit vertical, which sustains our non-profit work as well. So again, model doesn't matter, right? Whether you're for-profit, non-profit, hybrid, whatever. What matters is that you are solving a problem which is some of the most pressing problem in the society, and you're doing in a very innovative manner, right? And creating solutions which are sustainable over a period of time, right? So yeah, but to your question, how can one become a social entrepreneur? Like I said, nobody has to come and give you a tag that you're a social entrepreneur. You just start solving problems. It could be, like I said, in your college, it could be in your colony, wherever you're living. Doesn't really matter, right? It all matter is that you are solving problems which are critical, which are really important, right? And then of course, the next step I would say is, once you're ready to now scale your solution, you're ready to solve bigger problems. There are so many incubators these days. I would like to mention few. Unlimited India, we work closely with them. They're doing incredible work. Then and Nudge Foundation has a program called Encore, which is only for non-profits. There is one on education by something called Atma. There is School for Social Entrepreneurs. Will Grow, in fact, that's based in Chennai. It's been one of the big ones and has been there for so many years in multiple places now across the world. So I think there is a lot that is happening to build an ecosystem around social entrepreneurship. Even your colleges, like I said, I'm aware of quite a few which focus heavily on social entrepreneurship. There are courses being taught on social entrepreneurship. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think one big myth I would say people have is that you can't make enough money and there's always a payoff in a way of becoming a social entrepreneur. I really don't think so. I think if you are innovative and if you're able to create a model which is sustainable, again, with certain models, I get it that it may not pay you immediately or may not pay you as much, which other jobs can be. But again, then you also have to make that choice, right? That for you, what matters. And sometimes having a certain amount of money is good enough for you, and then you would want to rather focus on solving a problem. But yeah, there are some extremely well-to-do, like waste management for the matter. You're solving a problem, yet it's a very well-funded industry, right? Like any other industry. So a lot of your investment arms, impact investment funds are funding such kind of models, right? So yeah, I think like I tell anybody, learn as much as about this space, and then kind of start doing it things yourself. So experiential learning is extremely important.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashish. And being a social entrepreneur, I think you have a lot of grassroots and on-ground experience for the last few years. So how it helped you to so get an opportunity to enter into the various the global platforms which you have been familiar with. And also, I think I heard about your entry into the National University of Singapore. So how you are working for the community and working for the social activities and being a social activist will help you to get benefit out of the hard work which you've been putting or committing in the community, which helps you for the kind of scholarships or help you in the first hand to get job opportunities. How the global market is looking at the social entrepreneurs or social activists or youth volunteerism or youth activism to get benefit in future. Maybe you can just share with your example.
2-3 things you have asked. What exactly is your question?
So actually, I think you have been involving it in social entrepreneurship and volunteerism activities for last few years. So what will be your advice for the upcoming people, maybe the students community or the staff community, how the volunteerism and social entrepreneurship or being a social activism helps to get job opportunities in the mindset of human resource people, in the mindset of HR, or to get future scholarships abroad, something like that?
Oh, like that. Okay. I think being a social entrepreneur, if you're in college, school, you're involved with volunteerism and activism, so it helps you to definitely learn a lot of skills, so those skills are very important. But yeah, if you are already a social entrepreneur, you're full-time into it, either you have your own venture or you work with social enterprises, I feel like that's a full-time job in itself. So but yeah, I think if I understand your question you mean like how does this experience helps you to also become a better, I would say a professional, right? So I think it's kind of the skills that you learn. So being a social entrepreneur or being involved with the whole impact space definitely helps you to get some very important skills which are super important. In fact, this is something that we were talking about in our yesterday's program on the future skills, and we brought these two incredible speakers to talk about who are very senior career coaches and career counselors. So they talked about what are the skills that our future would need, right? So being empathetic, and especially because of COVID, things have changed so much. The dimensions are different. We are all working from remotely now. If you're not being empathetic, it's very difficult to work because there is a lack of human touch now. So you need to become empathetic. And as a social entrepreneur or a social activist or being in the impact space, you see issues so closely that empathy kind of comes naturally. So being empathetic, being an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, you're solving problem. So critical problem solving, because you don't look problem from one particular lens, you have to have a 360-degree view of it. And then you are deep diving into understanding those problems well enough. So I think those critical problem skills, analytical skills are extremely important. Third aspect is working with multiple communities, stakeholders, teams. So that kind of skill set is again very, very important. So I think these are the few things you learn being on ground and get exposed. And I highly recommend to all the students out there is to definitely volunteer at least once while you are especially in school, college, because that exposes you so much that helps you in the long run, right? Coming to your question in terms of scholarships or other kind of financial assistance. So I think, like I said, the space is evolving, and I'm also part of a program by the National University of Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, which supports social entrepreneurs to pursue their higher education while they're also running their initiatives. The benefit of it is that as a scholarship, they cover for your study cost, as well as they inform you well in advance, so then you can prepare your transition. So I was informed almost a year in advance, so I can work with my team, put a system and structure, and while I'm studying, I'm also being able to manage. Though it's definitely quite challenging, but it's also a good way of like immersive and experiential learning, because what you're learning is then can be taken up. And it's been about 1 year since I'm at a grad school, and a lot, I think, what my ideas have also refined, evolved, and the way I look at things are also kind of changing, and I'm able to take a lot of this learning to my teams and the communities we work with, right? So yeah, this is one example. There are so many. I think there are fellowships, there are scholarships, there are even with conferences and such kind of programs, they support young people who have done something very innovative for the communities, and as they are looking for those kind of change makers to also and leaders to come up. So I think there's a lot out there. That's what I'm saying, and in fact a lot has come up in last few years, and lot will continue to happen. Like I said, there's focus on sustainable development goals, there is so much focus on social entrepreneurship, and there is a lot of focus on especially India. Like I said, the world is all focused on Asia, India specifically, because we are the most youthful country and there's so much potential out there, right? So yeah, we need to, make sure that we make the best use of what we have right now.
Thank you so much, Ashish, and just share us some of the few experiences you've been undergoing in Singapore. How the student friendly, what is your best learning from Singapore, where if any kind of where we can able to implement that in India in sort of student friendly aspects, or in sort of youth friendly aspects, or government initiatives. So what is your best learning from Singapore in your perspectives, which can be implemented in India or can be taken as a model?
Sorry, you mean like what are different models?
Different models happening in Singapore. What was your best learning about the Singapore government activities, or student-friendly initiatives, or youth-friendly initiatives? So right. What is your best experience on?
I think a lot. In fact, I came to Singapore a couple of times before moving here. There's so much to learn in terms of. I think Singapore in last 50 years has been able to really transform itself from being a small fishing village to a powerhouse, economic powerhouse, and the kind of model it's built. So I think there's a lot to learn in terms of the policies the government have made, and the way they have taken care of their citizens. In terms of young people, students, I think there's a lot of focus on a holistic learning. It's not just academic learning. So people are encouraged to be a part of community programs, experiential learning programs. There is a 2 years of mandatory, service with the military. So yeah, I think there are some of the good things to learn from Singapore, and there is a lot of learning from fellow, classmates as well. In our school, we have people who are working in the government with the global organizations, UN bodies, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think there is interesting time. It's a good way to learn, not only being in a classroom, but since the professor or the principal were talking about e-learning, I think the world is changing. It was changing, but now it's changing much faster because of this. So there's also a good thing because of this lockdown, that learning is not restricted to the school you go to, the classroom you're part of, but it's a global learning classrooms. There's so much of online learning available right now, and it's an interesting time to also use innovative forms of learning. Courses are okay, but then there is also things that people are using. Like I was the other day reading a report on how people are using TikTok as a short form of learning new skills. So their whole EduTalk campaign is all about that, right? People are using Facebook, YouTube. There's so many forms to learn new skills, right? So I think what matters is that what do you, as a young person, what do you want to become, and focus your time and energy on the kind of the right skills and the right people. I think these are two very, very important things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashish, and thank you everyone for being a part of the session. And so, do you have any closing remarks to close to tell for any future graduates in the post-pandemic situation or during the pandemic situation? How can they can just face the market? So, do you think entrepreneurship is the way to go forward, or to just go for any kind of a job? As we know that the job market is going to be more tougher than the current situation. So what would be your suggestion for the young people who are just going to pass out in the upcoming years?
Right. My suggestion would be, and this is something we've been also talking a lot in last few days, and in yesterday's session also we brought this up, that don't look at, I know it's a big problem, big challenge, and especially the ones who are graduating, there will be less jobs for next couple of months. In fact, we don't know how and when economy revives, but let's be prepared. Once we know that challenge is there, rather than whining about it, it's good to look at solutions, right? So there are 2-3 things that I recommend. A, focus on building skills which you always wanted but could not, because now you were stuck in a class, or you immediately had to go do things. Maybe spend next few months on building those skills, right? So what are those important skills, what you want to do in future? So it's a good time. Second, look at future models, right? So there's going to be certain industries which will do fairly well than other ones. So things like online education, things like healthcare, things like, anything to do which has more of use of technology, right? And will be virtual. So what are those industries that will continue to do well, right? So maybe you want to focus more on building your skills on those specific industries. So whenever there are job opportunities, so then you can apply. And third and foremost, I would always recommend that, it's never too early, too late to start up, right? So if you think you have that idea and very, like, you're extremely passionate about something, you can, always good to start up, have a small capital, either from your savings, or now there are so many programs which give seed funding. The government is giving collateral free small loans for people to start up. And especially, I think there's a lot of focus, especially on now, to create micro enterprises. In fact, if you guys are interested, like I said, connect on with us on our social media channels on MASH. We are talking a lot about micro entrepreneurship, and next week we are hosting a program on role of mentors for entrepreneurs. So I think there will be a lot of focus on supporting micro entrepreneurs, and governments and larger civil society organizations will support more and more such kind of programs, right? So keep an eye on them, keep a check on what kind of programs are coming up, be part of institutions which promote that, especially a big city like, I believe most of you are in Chennai or around that area, have some great institutions which are promoting entrepreneurship, right? So get in touch with those, be a part of their programs, attend more webinars and seminars where you can learn a lot about what's the future trends. Because as entrepreneurs, it's important to focus on, like our Prime Minister said, right? Go local, right? Like be local, right? Vocal for local, right? So I think solve local problems. That's where the big potential lies, and then scale that up gradually. So what are the problems in your city, in your communities, right? So look at solving them. Even if it's not social, that's absolutely fine. But you're able to create an impact even if you create a job for yourself and for at least few people along with yourself, right? So yeah, I think it's a good time to look up starting up if you haven't thought about it earlier. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashish, and thank you for all the participants who have been patiently listening and also been asking the various questions. And so thank you, Ashish, for spending your time and energy, and hope the situation in Singapore, the post-pandemic, will be good. And I wish you for the rest of year for the studies. And I request Dr. Sujatha for the closing remarks. Or if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. It is an effective and informative session. You have thrown a spark to the young minds to be a changer, and you are touched, you are differentiated actually how to be from the entrepreneurship. We were all the time we were thinking about entrepreneurship and doing business and all these things and teaching to our students. Actually, today you are given a better choice how to be a social entrepreneur, and also you are touched the stress management and the waste management that is very much needed nowadays for the young minds. So they have to learn all these things. Thank you very much. In this moment, you are given your valuable tips to all of us here, the teachers as well as the students. I thank all the participants For the both the days, you have actively participated in our international virtual conference organized by Sri Chandraprabhu Jain College. I thank the management as well as our principal for their support and coordination. So I thank Mr. Dinesh Gajendran for supporting us in all aspects. So and being the host and the moderator. Thank you one and all present here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you all the people who have been watching in the YouTube and sharing your positive remarks and comments. And thank you, Ashish, for your again the energy and passion you shared on the entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. And wish you good luck for the future.
Thank
Wish you good luck for the future session, and hope to see the MASH going greater heights.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Dinesh. Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am. Good to join you and hope to connect again in future. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.